and got it.
Got it. Excellent. Good to go.
Good to go.
Excellent. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. Before we get started with today's guest, just make sure to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button to wherever it is you're listening or watching. There's quite a bit of platforms. And we were just laughing earlier because with my guest today, we usually speak in French. So I had to remember to switch to English. So it was really close. I almost started the intro in French. If we switch over, I do apologize. And today we have actually, I think it's a very important topic to bring up because it's very common, but everybody keeps it hush hush. Nobody wants to talk about it. There's not a lot of resources out there. And we really want to kind of dismantle the stigma of young mothers. I work a lot with parents, and it's the same with dads. I'm a strong advocate of giving dads the props that they deserve when they show up for their children, but it's the same. A mother is a mother, a father is a father, no matter what the situation is. And I've had actually, it was a privilege for me to work with a lot of different types of family portraits, and they all had great values. At the end of the day, we all want the best for our children, so we need to take that stigma away of judging people for whatever situation they're dealing with. So that's what I have today. It was a big introduction, but I have Katherine here today with me to talk about her experience. I've had the pleasure of working with her on the TV talk show for our French local network here in Ottawa at TV Rogers. So her episode will be airing in December as well for those who want to see it in French. I've had the pleasure to interview Katherine on TV as well. So thank you so much. I was just about to switch to French. Thank you so much, Katherine, for coming on and sharing your story. Thanks. It's a great pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and can you just kind of tell us briefly your story? I know we could talk about it all day, but just briefly tell us about your backstory so people can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, of course. So when I was 19, I met my first ever boyfriend, and soon after found out I was pregnant, which was a big shock to both of us. And I knew immediately that we had three options. Of those three options, the three options, were to keep the baby, adoption, which personally I felt if I went through with the pregnancy that I would keep the child. That was just my own personal belief. And termination was the third option. So when I went to the doctors and they just give you pamphlets and they kind of send you on your way, I found Planned Parenthood has counseling, which was a game changer for me. When we went there, they separated Patrick and I. They interviewed me once they were certain and comfortable that Patrick and I were on the same page with what we were coming for, making sure, for example, I wasn't being pressured into this decision, whatever. They brought us in together for counseling, and they offered financial counseling, which was a really big thing. So they talked to us about what rent would be, how much diapers cost, how much formula costs, all these different things. And it's in that moment that I realized, hey, I can do this. This is a real plan now. And that's where I actually made my decision in the counseling session of Planned Parenthood that I was going to keep this child and I was going to give it the best life I could.
Wow. Yeah. And that's amazing. I'm glad you started off straight off the bat with that because you took it upon yourself. Like you say, it's not something that was planned for, there's all sorts of different reasons. And a lot of situations like this, a lot of women, mostly women, but the young couples that go through it really don't know where to start. And I actually learned that from you when I interviewed you at first, that the clinics are there and they're really thorough. And they say, we're not bringing you in that back room until we're 100% sure that you want to go through with this one option. And I thought that was amazing that there is a stigma on Planned Parenthood and those clinics, and it's always so controversial. But to even go through the finances and say, this is the reality of being a parent. And for you at 19, then going through everything that you're going through.
You know, I had a part-time job and I had to start thinking about, okay, well, a part-time job isn't going to do it. You know, I got to be on a full-time job at the very least. And it just brought everything, like it kind of gave me a plan and a way forward, which I didn't have before. I almost felt lost, you know?
Yeah.
So to have finally a concrete plan that, wow, I can do this, that's what really helped me make my decision.
Yeah, and that's what that doesn't just go for, you know, young teen moms or for any age. Honestly, I'm speaking from experience. No matter how old you are, you're not ready for that first child, no matter how ready you think you are. So just to have that option, just okay, let's sit down and jot this down and see how this looks. It's amazing. Now at 19, obviously this is the sociable years. You know, you're high school, you got lots of friends, you know, you're living your life, and now you're faced with these choices. How did those choices change the way you looked at life at that particular moment?
So it changed the course of my life as I knew it. I now had all this responsibility, example, rent, food, my ongoing pregnancy, which I had to be healthy for myself and my unborn child at the time. And although I was happy with my decision and I was certain of my decision, there was a lot of sadness and loneliness because, as you mentioned, my peers were going out partying, were going, you know, out and doing whatever, whenever they wanted. And I was kind of thrown into this world of adulthood, so to speak. And then only now in my life, I'm 28 now, are my friends starting to join me in parenthood. So at the time, like I said, it was a lot of loneliness, and it changed from my priority changed from school to work / my career. So I was no longer looking to go at that time. I was no longer planning on going to college. I was more planning on starting my career, starting a job that could support my family and I.
Yeah, so that's a huge change when you're thinking you're just going to live your life and enjoy it before the responsibilities hit you. But and it's funny that you mentioned your friends are kind of catching up to where you're at right now, because it was the same. I was 24 with my first, but it took a good 10 years before our friends, actually we were considered to be young at that time. So yeah, I know what you mean. And what was the toughest thing, would you say, what was the toughest thing for you to give up when you knew that you were going to be a parent now and nobody's going to...
My freedom, so to speak, giving up doing whatever, whenever I wanted with not a care in the world, you know? Now I had two people, my partner, Patrick, and my child to think of, you know? So I couldn't, and we had to think about money. We had to think about this and that. And so I couldn't just do whatever, whenever. And I'd say that was the hardest thing to give up, so to speak. I was just maybe doing it a lot less often.
Yeah. And you also, that feeling of probably you felt, and this is why I like bringing you on to this show, is you feel alone. A lot of young mothers who are faced with this, and you had your partner. A lot, you know, some don't have the father, so you really do feel alone, and your friends you see your friends slowly pulling away, and you're just sitting there going, all right,
yeah,
this is how it's gonna be. And this isn't part of the questions, but I wanted to kind of bring it up. You did bring it up on the French talk show. Was the approach that you and your partner, or you and Patrick, had going in. I thought that blew my mind away. Again, I learned so much from talking to you, and I think it's an important message that it's not the age, it's not the situation. If you take time to listen to somebody's reality, you can actually learn something. You actually got together saying, okay, the odds are against us to begin with. Let's make this right. Can you kind of share? I know I'm throwing you for a loop on that one. I didn't prepare you. But I think it's a very important, because even at any age, I think that's the approach we should have to coming into a relationship, whether it's planned or not. Can you share that a little bit, how you guys had that sit down? Okay.
So Patrick and I realized, I was 19, he was in his 20s, 21, 22, around there. We realized we were each other's first ever boyfriend, girlfriend, you know, the odds of us staying together through the pregnancy or even afterwards were very low. So the whole pregnancy, we had discussions about how we would want to raise our child should we separate. We talked about the values we would want to instill, the habits, how it would be at my house and his house, and how we would stay connected and discussing. We made the decision to keep Nico also very separate, because I had offered personally, not everyone would do this, but I had offered to carry the child for him should he want it and I decide I not. So we really both made the decision separately, but at the same time, very much together, which made us, I find, like, we're still together today. It gave us such a strong foundation because we knew what we wanted. There was no guessing. We knew this is how we want this child raised. And we fell into that.
Yeah. Then that's what is, I find incredible. And like I said, if everybody would have those sit downs before they get together, I think it would, because it's been 9 years now. You're still strong. You had all the odds against you. People will automatically kind of prepare you for that split,
Exactly.
But you guys are still together. You build a family together. You have a home together, and I think that's incredible. So really props to you on that one. I'm like taking notes. I'm like, yeah, I should have done that. So everybody who's listening, listen to the wisdom here. The other thing that a lot of young mothers are faced with is there's not a lot of support out there. You're harshly judged. Family may actually turn their backs on you depending on the situation. Where were you able to find your support when you had to go through all of this?
So I had to find support 3 ways. The first way was my partner. And as previously mentioned, like, we made those discussions. So we were basically planning on us not staying together through the years, but we had support for each other. So that was my first support. The second support was my family. So my mom, my dad, I have 3 sisters. So my sisters, and although initially, for example, my parents weren't excited and woohoo, baby's coming, they were 100% supportive to me. They were ready to support me through whatever decision I made, which was really hard for me at 19 because I really wanted my parents to give me the answer, and they couldn't, and the last support was Patrick's family, which I was the most nervous about. I wasn't sure how they were going to take it, but from the beginning, although again, they weren't necessarily excited, they were very supportive to Patrick and I. So for me, it was really turning to family and a few close friends. I did lose, unfortunately, some friends during this transition, but my family was really my rock during that time. So that
is great. Yeah, and if you can get that support, that's amazing. And for anybody, so some people not necessarily have the family, there is other support out there, and it's important to go get it. Doing it alone is not easy, but there's a lot of people out there. And it's when you talk about it, because this is a topic that a lot of people won't talk about. I mean, back in the day, you used to hide. This is something that happens frequently, but you kind of hide it. Talk about it. Talk about it, make it normal for people to know that you're not the only one going through this, and something positive can come out of it. Many people still judge harshly the young mothers, and without even knowing what the situation is, they'll definitely give you that look, when you're going out to the store and you're like, and you get those looks. The family may be a little uncomfortable with it as well. So what would your advice be to young women who are going through something like this and really need to get over that self-conscious thing that they're going through? What would your advice be to young women out there?
So this question really spoke to me. I took a lot of time to kind of think about how I wanted to answer it, because there's so many things I could say, but honestly, the thing that spoke most to me when I thought back on it was make the choice that's right for you and commit to it. Okay. That doesn't mean it's always going to be easy. Like, oh, the decision's made, we're done. No, you have to commit to your decision and really stick by it. I'm not saying things can change, plans change, everything changes, but really stick to it, commit to it. And even if there are struggles or hills you have to climb, it's normal. Everyone, even older moms are going through very similar things the young moms are doing. A kid having a meltdown in the store, things like that. It's all normal. But I feel like those looks to a young mom are kind of more, they hit a little harder.
Yeah, there's definitely more judgment there. Even if you have an older mother, that has a child with a meltdown, you're thinking, oh, it's just a bad day. But
Exactly.
you see a young mother with a child having a meltdown, you're like, oh, you see, they can't. And then so
They're not parenting correctly,
they're
this
not
is because there's no discipline, whatever.
exactly. So at the end, I mean, you're the proof that it's really not the case, because I think you handle it a lot more maturely than most most of us do. So it's wonderful. And again, for all the young ladies out there who are going it, and that's what I like. The voice that you're giving is stick to your values. You know what you want. You know what's best for you. At the end of the day, people will kind of let you down. You need to be able to stay strong and stay solid. So follow your heart, and
Exactly.
as long as you have the baby's interest and your best interest at hand, and everything will fall into place. But it's not easy.
No
Matter what situation, it's not easy. But it's easy to get influenced. Like you said it yourself. Like you wish your parents would give you the answer. Be like, can you not just give me this answer, please? I don't want to think about this. You gotta stick to it, and it comes out great. You have another little one now, and she is adorable. So your family is growing. How do you find that balance between family, between work, between everything else that's thrown at you?
So that's really funny. I'm still working on finding the balance. If you have the answer, please give it to me.
I haven't found it yet.
But all joking aside, it's really difficult. The best I can say is like, I try to take care of yourself. You can't pour out of an empty cup. So if you take care of yourself, everything else kind of, you can manage, So, as hard as it is to balance work, life, doctor's appointments, who knows, school, everything kind of thrown at you, take it one step at a time. Take care of yourself, take that time when you need to take a nap, take the nap, things like that, so that you have the energy to really deal with these things.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, sometimes it's even just to take a shower as a mother, as a new mother in general. It's like, when was the last time I took a shower?
Yeah.
I'm so worried about
your big messy bun, and you're up in there, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just need a moment.
I need a moment. That's right. Oh, that's so funny, because that's I guess it's another question I have for you is, when you're 19, you kind of start thinking about what your family life will be once you have your own family. How did your experience change how you viewed what your family would be like once you started one?
So it changed. For example, sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
For one thing, my pregnancies were very differently received for my son, who's now 7, and my daughter, who's now 2. The first one was like, woo, are we excited? Like, what's happening? Very shocked and concerned even. But with my daughter, I was more age appropriate. And it was all excitement and glitter and rainbows, So I think that's when I realized it had changed my view on my family, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't realize I had kind of been hiding my age for a long time. So, for example, at work, I don't say my age because I have a lot of responsibility at work. And when people do find out my age, they're usually shocked. So they know I have 2 kids at home. They know I have a partner. They know I have all this. And I have a lot of responsibility at work. But when it comes to finding out my age, they're like, whoa, you're so young, And it's like, but in the end, I feel I made the right choice for myself. And I did have another baby with Patrick, years later. But I built a life I'm proud of, and I think I've done a pretty good job. So although it's changed the way, it's hard to explain how it changed the view, because like I said, I don't mention my age, this and that. But now when I mention my age, you're like, oh, that's okay. You've got a 2-year-old. And it's like, yeah, but I've also got a 7-year-old, So, it's hard to explain, but that's how I could kind of bottle it up.
Yeah. And also the fact that you're with the same partner. That's another thing where you feel like, oh, okay, same father. Okay. And so it's funny how people will kind of make you look at things differently. For you, that's just the way it is. But it's people's reaction, and you're just like, oh, okay, maybe I should, re-explain. But No, it's amazing. And that's what I like about watching you and your family is, the interaction within the family, how the kids are involved in everyday life. It's just the way family is. There's nothing different. A mother is a mother, a father is a father, a couple is a couple. It's amazing. What kind of wisdom, is funny that you say that, because you're like, people think I'm too young, but you have, like I said, I've learned from you. You have wisdom to share. What would you like to share with our listeners? Is something that you wish you would have known that would have made your life easier? If you wish you would have known sooner, or something that you want to pass down to your children, it's like, my kids need to know this so that their life can be easier. What would you like to share?
So one thing, just because you're young doesn't mean you don't know what's best for your child. That's one thing that was really, I learned the hard way. Okay. I got shut down a lot, told what to do, even though I knew that wouldn't work. So you may need to fight a little harder to be heard or believed. But like I said, just because you're young doesn't mean you don't know what's best for your child. That's the biggest wisdom that I can kind of give, because especially this year for me personally, I've had to become my son's advocate, because he does have like speech impediments and learning difficulties. So contacting the school, and it's uncomfortable. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But, going to the school and be like, this is what he requires to succeed. And the school kind of sometimes coming back being like, no, we do it this way. And it's like, well, that doesn't work for him, And finally, now we're on the same page, but that took a lot of work to get there.
Yeah, that's already a struggle on its own for any parents who's going through that. And then again, the age factor there, where you're not necessarily taken seriously. But I've worked in childcare centers in schools for almost 20 years, and I could tell you that it's not the age that makes you a good parent. And you know what's best. So I love that. Send that message. People share this message. You know what's best. And the schools will tell you, parents are the first educators, the first teachers of their children. But we gotta put that into action and practice what you preach. Parents do know what's best for their child, and we need to respect that. So I think that's an amazing message. As long as it's your child's best interest at heart, it's the right decision, even if there's some adjustments to make later on, as the best one. Yeah. So you were saying you have your 2-year-old as well. You have the family, the work. Anything new? Any new projects coming up for you? Anything?
I'm mostly been working on myself lately. I feel like put myself on the back burner for so long. I kind of need to bring myself forward a bit. Another thing I've been working a lot on is making sure my children get what they need. As previously mentioned, my son's in speech therapy, and he has learning difficulties, occupational therapy, all these things. So these are big priorities. That's what I've been really working on, and constantly and actively working on my relationship with Patrick. That's another one that's like really hard. So we're always, these are all the things that are constantly on my mind for what am I working on. That's pretty much it for me.
And that's a pretty solid goals there, because the relationships evolve as the kids get older. You got to find yourself as a couple. So I think that's great. That's why I'm always amazed. Like you're so wise. You guys are really, really doing a great job together. I know it's not always easy, but for the outside looking in, I was like, wow, I should have known this back in the day. So that's why I love bringing you on. If anybody would like to, because I know I follow you on Instagram, and you post pictures of, your little daughter in the shop with daddy and all of that, which is great, because I am a big advocate of learning through play as well. And this is you just give great examples of how much knowledge your kids are getting through the home environment. Is there any way, if you want to share, I don't want to put you on the spot there, but can people reach you or follow you? Well, maybe follow you, or if they want to bring you on to talk further about on their own shows, or talk about being an advocate for who you represent and the voice that you give, how can people follow you?
The best way would probably be Instagram. I'm very responsive on Instagram, so definitely follow me there or reach out to me there. But also Facebook. I'm very open to Facebook being reached out, but again, it's kind of like private, right? So you have to request. So Instagram would be easiest.
Okay, well, That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Like I said, this is a topic that more people need to talk about. It is very important to give that voice to women. I mean, it's people hide it. People won't want to talk about it, but it's so common. Mm-hmm. And it's important to give that voice to young mothers and to help them, to support them, to give them the tools and the resources so that they're more solid in their decisions. So I really thank you for coming on and sharing. And again, for everybody, we do have the French interview that's coming up. I will be posting it on my channels as well, to talk. If you're more comfortable in French, you'll be able to hear Katherine's story on there as well, TV Rogers Ottawa. So thank you again so much, Katherine, for coming on. Well, I'll make sure to put your information in the comments and the description so people can follow you, and just keep doing what you do. It's so beautiful to see your family. So beautiful family. So thanks again for coming on. And for everybody that's watching or listening, depending on which channel you're on, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, partake in this conversation, write some comments, and support. Give everybody a voice. And again, thank you everyone for watching, for listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we will talk soon.